Daddy, take a bow.
10 years have passed since Shirley Temple's untimely death, which has been the subject of endless discussion. Some insisted that there was more to the tale than we were informed. And her family remained silent throughout it all. Particularly her kids. So far. Because her children, yes, her children, have just recently, after 10 long, agonizing years, finally spoken up. At the conclusion of this film, you will not only comprehend the actual events that took place, but years ago, but you'll understand why they decided to speak now and why they waited this long. What happened to Shirley Temple, the tiny, curly-haired powerhouse, 10 years ago? Who won over millions of hearts with her dancing, singing, and tapping, died on February 10, 2014, is it not unbelievable? You still know, even if you didn't see her as a child. You mean Shirley Temple? That grin? Those dimples? Her ability to illuminate an entire movie screen with only a small giggle and a wink back in the day? That's the one, indeed. In any case, she passed away. Calmly in her Woodside, California, home. Calmly. Something about it seems reassuring. That, isn't it? There was nothing dramatic or terrible about it, just a peaceful departure from a loud, incredibly busy life. She was 85. Imagine living for 85 years, with a significant portion of those years spent in the spotlight, yet ultimately managing to keep a great deal of herself hidden. Did Shirley Temple's children carry a tragic secret with her to the afterlife, or did she herself simply conclude that the world wasn't prepared for the reality? Now that they have finally spoken up, and, let's be honest, not all of the rumors were false. What made them wait 10 years? What precisely are they disclosing? And how does it alter our perception of America's most beloved child star? Hold on tight, by the end, this becomes poignant, startling, and slightly devastating. Now, as stated by her family's spokeswoman and longtime agent, Shirley Black, Charles Black Jr., who is also her son, talk about keeping it in the family, has been experiencing respiratory problems for a few weeks. Nothing unexpected, no scenes of emergency, no hurried hospital stays, as you may occasionally hear. According to her physician, she had respiratory failure. That ultimately took her, yet she was calm, sleeping, and relaxing. Isn't that the type of conclusion? What does everyone secretly want for? To be in the comfort of your own home with the people you love, home, going away painlessly and quietly? Furthermore, what is so endearing? Despite her, although her body was gradually failing, her intellect remained alert. Like, sharp as a razor. According to her son, she was continuing to discuss books, news, and the world, all the way until the end. That reveals a great deal about do you think she was the kind of lady she was? She wasn't merely a child celebrity who vanished following she remained vibrant in her own area and in her own manner, even after the spotlight faded. She didn't require the red carpets and flashbulbs to make you feel alive. Following the news, her family released this lovely, respectable statement. She was referred to as America's sweetheart, and to be honest, how were they unable to? Didn't she have that sweetheart? However, they didn't end there. Respected her whole life, not just the adorable movie parts that brought her fame. They discussed her amazing diplomatic work. Yes, Shirley Temple was a legitimate ambassador, and, most poignantly, as their great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother. Don't you think it's funny? How someone in the entire planet knew for many years could nevertheless be even more profoundly understood by a select few. And the answer? It was enormous and instantaneous. Hollywood hesitated. Supporters wept. Politicians had their say. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences also expressed their opinions, referring to her as a genuine icon and legend. George H. W. Bush. "Yes," said George Bush, who claimed she was a fine diplomat, in addition to being talented. "It's wonderful to see that Shirley Temple was respected in a wide range of professions in addition to being well-known. After singing 'Animal Crackers in My Soup,' who else has found themselves shaking hands in foreign embassies?" Nevertheless, she remained faithful to her former self in her final years, humble, private and unrelated to the show. Her burial? This was no ostentatious Hollywood production. At Alta Mesa Memorial Park, it was a low-key, private event. Absence of paparazzi, passionate farewells, only tranquility and close family. She desired it that way. Not a spotlight. No curtain call. Simply take a nap. But her admirers? Yes, they had no intention of letting her leave without a little glitz. They brought lollipops to her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Countless them. A charming little homage to her well-known song, "On the Good Ship Lollipop." Isn't that simply the cutest thing? The fans seemed to be saying, "We remember you because of how you made us feel when we were children." I believe she would have grinned at that. At last, the death certificate was submitted and it validated the natural causes that the family had previously mentioned in San Mateo County. No drama. No secret. Simply the peaceful conclusion of a lengthy, significant life. And perhaps that's the most lovely aspect of it all was how someone who illuminated screens with such happiness and purity was able to disappear in a manner that felt as elegant and delicate as she had always appeared. Why her kids decided to come out now 10 years have passed since Shirley Temple died. An entire decade. To be honest, it seems like folks were only watching yesterday. Her vintage black and white movies and grinning at those lovely dimples and curls. However, currently 10 years later, her family, especially her children, is finally talking about what life was like. Truly like behind all the glitz and celebrity. And believe me, most people don't think that. It's similar to when people believe your life is one way based only on appearances. The outside, but in reality, the reality is entirely different. This is the energy. Let's now discuss Shirley's daughter, Susan. She has recently been more outspoken, and it makes logic, to be honest. Something is stirred when you reach a significant anniversary, such as 10 years. Within you, don't you? For example, memories flood back, and all of a sudden you have a strong desire to correct the record for your own mental health as well as the sake of the world. Susan is more than merely voicing their opinions since it's a publicity gimmick or anything similar. No, this is real. In one sentence, she is remembering, lamenting, and celebrating. Furthermore, what's so her portrayal of her mother, not as Shirley Temple the star, but as Mom, the lady, is heartwarming. Who was by her side no matter what, not only throughout the significant events but also during the more intimate ones. According to her, they were practically inseparable when it came to activities like shopping excursions and taking a trip together. I mean, can you picture the woman that everyone saw on screen, Shirley Temple? Just like any other mother, pulling a grocery cart casually with her daughter? However, that's precisely Susan's point. She has no intention of glamorizing anything. She's merely saying, "Hey, I miss my mom, who was my best friend." And there are a ton more to her than what others believe they know. Her son, Charles Jr., is another contributed as well, which heightens the sentimentality of the entire situation. You can sense how much they both hold pride and love for her. He made a statement that really got to you. The chest. He said the only time he was truly reminded that his mother was important was when another person approached and requested an autograph. Something, isn't it? Imagine having to grow up with a well-known mother in the world, but in your household, she is only known for making you pancakes. And reminded you to complete your assignments. Isn't that intriguing? But also, sort of lovely. Charles Jr. and Susan both appear intent on dispelling the rubbish and myths. Have faith for years. Do you know how the public enjoys putting famous people in boxes? Either they are disengaged, divas, or overly preoccupied with their jobs to give a damn about anything else. Shirley Temple, though? No. Her children said she was the complete opposite. Of everything. Being a celebrity or even a U.S. ambassador wasn't her proudest role, which is being a mother is even more of a boss move. A mother who prepared meals, who shared laughter with her children, who always favored family over red carpets. And they truly want the world to do that. Comprehend. She was grounded. She was nice. In the best sense of the word, she was normal. And that sounds refreshing, doesn't it? In a time when a lot of celebrities look exaggerated, and absolutely inviolable, it's quite touching to learn that Shirley Temple remained anchored, of all people. For example, this individual could have spent her entire life as she didn't touch this untouchable icon. Real life was her choice. Little, she picked dinners at the table. Moments that made up a complete and significant life. Charles Jr. even made a statement that has lingered in What more could you want from someone who grew up? I told her that she was wonderful and normal in the spotlight. And it's evident that the 10-year mark, which marked the beginning of all of this, wasn't only arbitrary. They seem to have been harboring these ideas for some time, and now, at last, I felt justified in speaking up. To honor her memory in the most sincere way possible, not only to protect it in the most practical manner. Telling history as it actually was is more important than changing it. This entire event is more than just a memorial. It's a sincere, intensely intimate revelation of the legend's woman. Furthermore, let's face it, how often do we get to hear a celebrity's "this is how a legacy is told"? Not by fans or tabloids, but by the individuals who were seated beside them at the breakfast table, accompanied them on their vacation, and sobbed in their arms. It's true. It's not common. 10 years later, Shirley Temple's children are now revealing the truth and stating, this is her true self. And really? It only deepens your affection for her. Did you ever think that the world's most famous child star would ultimately just want to be a mother? Shirley Temple looked familiar to you, the dimples, the unending charm, the curls. But what if her family held a secret behind that charming smile? Concealed for a full decade? Why are her children deciding to speak up at this time? Were the rumors true? Is it really true that we all dismissed it? And why did they fear that others would discover out? Keep watching until the very end because everything will alter as a result of what they just confirmed. Which rumors were eventually verified by the family? Shirley Temple was essentially the love of America. The face of innocence during the Great Depression and other difficult periods. However, this is the thing. There has always been a sense of mystery about some aspects of her life, correct? One thing leads to another, and you start to wonder, what's the real story here? Well, I suppose what? At last, her family made the decision to rectify the situation and make amends. And my gosh, a few of the things they disclosed? It's crazy. Extremely, extremely crazy. Not in an embarrassing manner, but in a way that makes you take a step back and reconsider, like, wow, I had no idea all of the information you believed you already knew about the girl who sang on the good ship Lollipop. Let's begin with that Shirley Temple smile, you know. Imagine her wearing those fluttery little gowns, dancing around in black and white, and grinning like she had no worries in the world. Okay, as it happens, that brilliant smile? A little Hollywood wizardry was used. Is it not unbelievable? The household Shirley wore specific tooth crowns and plates during her early years, according to recent confirmation. Work at Fox Studios to conceal baby teeth that were missing. Yes, she lost her teeth like any other child. However, because she had to appear perfect and was in the spotlight all the time, the studios ensured that her smile never faltered. How come we hadn't noticed that earlier? Furthermore, in 1935, at her major cement ceremony at Grauman's Theater, you know, the entire hands and feet in the cement routine that celebrities still engage in today, she executed this subtle act of brilliance. Rather than grinning broadly at the photographers, which would have revealed that several of her teeth were missing, she removed her shoes without any apparent reason. She dug her bare feet into the concrete. Who would even consider doing that? It resembled her tiny method of expressing, hey, let's concentrate on the feet instead of the teeth, shall we? To be honest, that's some next time level of kid star intelligence. And that clarifies a lot of why her grin always seemed so picture-perfect, even at a time when the majority of children are wearing jack-o'-lantern smiles. But hold on, it becomes heavier. Let's discuss something that has long been misinterpreted, her well-being. Shirley Temple had breast cancer, as most people are aware. That section was open to the public. Furthermore, in terms of how candidly she discussed it at the time, she was a true trailblazer. For example, do you recall the days when it was considered taboo to even bring up breast cancer in the media? And Shirley was here, appearing on television and discussing mastectomies as though it were a common topic of discussion. That was enormous. However, what most people were unaware of, and this is where I was most struck, is that her death was not really due to cancer. Her death certificate, which was just made public, she passed away from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, according to information in the public domain. For those who are unfamiliar, that is a severe lung condition and one of the leading causes of death in the United States at the moment. Yes, I am aware. Although it's not discussed nearly enough, it's a significant matter. It becomes even more shocking to learn that Shirley Temple smoked. For example, a smoker for life. Isn't that somewhat surprising? This lady, who essentially stood for cleanliness since she was a teenager, moral principles, and a healthy lifestyle have been silently brewing in the background. The problem is that she never intended for that aspect of her life to be known to the public. She genuinely didn't, not because she was conceited or attempting to project an image of perfection. Wished to provide a poor example. Her family said as much. She felt a great deal of obligation to her fans. She made a special effort to ensure that she was never photographed, especially with the younger ones, while holding a cigarette. Isn't that a little heartbreaking? Consider trying to live up to a standard that the world set for you when you were still losing baby teeth, and feeling guilty about it all your life. An old interview from 1979 can be found in the family cited the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which implied that she was coping with far more than most people knew. And now that we're looking back, everything begins to fit one another. For example, we always viewed her as this unwavering representation of childhood happiness. However, beneath that lay a woman with genuine hardships, genuine secrets, and a hole her shoulders were under a lot of strain. Isn't it amazing how someone may achieve such fame? So widely loved, and yet manage to conceal such intimate details for decades? To be honest, it begs the question of how many other items celebrities secretly carry around because the world, they believe, would not comprehend. The way Shirley's family is at last sharing it almost feels like a gift to know these facts. She becomes more human as a result, not less lovable. More attainable. Since she was ultimately just a young woman who matured far too quickly, she discreetly fought her own issues in the background while spending her adolescence making millions of people smile. And don't you find it really lovely that she is continuously teaching us things after she passes away? Whether it's the stigma associated with smoking and health, the need to be flawless, or the silent fortitude required to shield people from your own shortcomings. Shirley Temple's tale has layers. So many layers. And now that we have a better understanding of her outside of the tap, we seem to be able to appreciate her in a completely different way when we see her laughing and dancing on TV. Shirley Temple was already there when the Prague Spring invasion occurred in 1968. A seasoned diplomat, not merely a Hollywood star, served as a representative in Czechoslovakia of the Multiple Sclerosis Society's International Federation. She was out there doing serious advocacy and humanitarian efforts. And here's the thing, she was supposed to meet with the Czechoslovakian party head at the time, Alexander Dubček, on the same day that the Soviet Union made the decision to launch a full-scale invading force and roll in their tanks. For example, what are the chances? Shirley Temple, who used to dance on sound stages while wearing glittering tap shoes, was being caught in the midst of one of the Cold War's most terrifying political changes. You don't expect this kind of story surprise, do you? Furthermore, this was more than a small annoyance. She uncertain of what would happen next, she was stuck in her hotel. There was tension in the air. You are able to nearly sense the